This is Trinity Storm and you are watching final part of Naruto the Unknown Dojutsu. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Naruto Uzumaki vs Kimimaro. The tension seemed to be cut with a knife because the atmosphere was so thick. Kimimaro and Naruto stood on opposite sides of the grassy field, staring at each other with murderous intent. Naruto's gaze darted to the coffin beside his opponent as he gripped his sword tightly. "I'm not going to fight this guy," Naruto reflected to himself as he closely observed his adversary. "This is no ordinary foe. He managed to avoid my intended attack earlier, despite the fact that I used my meteor." He then remembered the events earlier in the forest, when he attempted to reclaim the coffin containing Sasuke from the man in front of him, but he was able to avoid the meteor. "I'm not sure what this guy is up to, but I'm going to find out first." The blonde Uzumaki made the first move, throwing his sword into the air, causing his opponent to raise an eyebrow at what he was about to do. He prepared for one of his signature techniques by quickly performing the clone seal. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu!" he yelled, and with that, more than 100 clones of himself appeared all over the battlefield, surrounding Kimimaro. The real Naruto grabbed Stardust before it could fall to the ground after the last clone appeared. "Take him down," he commanded, summoning all of his copies. The clones rained down on Kimimaro, but something resounded all over the place as they collided. The sound of something being pierced. 5 to 8 clones on top of the sound nin vanished as they were stabbed with sharp, white spikes that appeared to be as hard as bone. Kimimaro was unharmed as the fake Narutos vanished, but his appearance was strange. Spikes seemed to erupt from every part of his body. White spikes appeared out of nowhere on his body, from his palms to his shoulders, elbows, and knees. The real Naruto couldn't help but raise an eyebrow when he saw what those were. They appeared to be bones. Real bones. To learn more, he ordered his clones to attack the enemy again, and this time, Kimimaro moved from his position to counterattack. "Yanagi no Mai, Dance of the Willow," he exhaled as the clones lunged at him. Kimimaro, however, dodged all of the attacks directed at him with ease, countering with swipes and slashes of his own, with the spikes located on various parts of his body protecting him from all sides, like a flower flowing with the wind. "He's annihilating the clones with ease." Naruto's thoughts continued. "I need to figure out a way to sneak up on him." He only needed a few seconds to come up with a brilliant plan. "Okay, this is risky because genjutsu isn't my strong suit. But I don't have a choice." He then charged towards Kimimaro, joining his clones in battle. Meanwhile, the white-haired man continued to effortlessly cut through every clone that tried to attack him, despite the fact that their numbers were rapidly decreasing. He came to a halt for a brief moment when he noticed that the clones had suddenly stopped attacking him. "My repertoire consists of 5 dances. This is only the beginning. Tell me, how long can you keep dancing? Can you keep up with me until my final dance?" he explained, only to be met with silence. But that was before he heard something in the distance. "Eclipse, Nishoku." Kimimaro's vision went black almost instantly, cutting him off. "What exactly is this technique?" he wondered. "I've never heard of a technique that can blind an opponent from afar." He stopped moving for a moment and closed his eyes, relying on his other senses. "He's trying to surprise me. A good strategy, but I'm afraid it won't work." He raised both his arms to block the incoming strike from the blonde's sword, sensing a slight disturbance in the air above him. Naruto's eyes widened slightly, allowing Kimimaro to block his attack despite the fact that he hadn't made a sound. When Naruto saw the sound ninja about to raise his arm even higher in an attempt to stab him with the blade on his elbow, he let go of Stardust for a split second before using Kimimaro's arm as a launcher to propel him backwards into the air, passing through a few hand seals. Snake, ram, monkey, boar, horse, tiger, kaiten, jikaki no jutsu. Fire release. Great fireball technique. he yelled, exhaling a massive sphere of flames towards his opponent, unconsciously dispelling the genjutsu he had placed on Kimimaro earlier. When the bone user regained his sight, he jumped away as soon as he noticed the approaching fireball. But as soon as he landed, more clones charged towards him, hoping to catch him off guard. But, like ants, Kimimaro easily destroyed them. He returned his attention to the front after defeating the copies around him, where he saw Naruto running towards him at full speed. Kimimaro charged towards him as well, knowing that if they were this close, he could kill him. For a split second, the seconds seemed to slow down, with the two opposing parties staring directly into each other's eyes. The seconds passed, and just as Naruto was about to be caught in his opponent's spike-looking blades, he rolled downwards and grabbed his sword, which was peacefully lying on the ground. Kimimaro gritted his teeth slightly at being duped before being assaulted once more by the clones. Narrowing his eyes, he was becoming irritated with the clones who were interfering with his and the original's fight. That's when he noticed something behind him that had escaped his notice. The Auto Nin lost his balance after a quick leg sweep and crashed to the ground. Taking advantage of the situation, the original Naruto swung his sword at his opponent in a flash, only for Kimimaro to easily block it again. When the fight began, the sound overall Nin's strength appeared to be superior to Naruto's, forcing the blonde to use both of his hands to break down his opponent's defense. But this is exactly what Kimimaro was hoping for. Using the strength Naruto put into his sword, he managed to disarm the Uzumaki of his weapon, allowing Kimimaro to deliver a quick swipe in the shape of a X towards the boy's abdomen while lying on the ground. Naruto jumped away from the intense pain in his stomach and looked down at himself, seeing a X-shaped wound that slashed his clothes openly. The wound wasn't deep, but it began to bleed. He hissed in agony before hearing something in his head that gave him hope. "Don't worry, Kit, I'll heal your wounds." Kurama comforted him. "Just get back in there." He looked up, resisting the pain, to see the spikes on different parts of his body slowly retracting back inside him. Seeing this as an opportunity, he quickly performed a series of hand seals to exploit his vulnerable state. Tiger, horse, monkey, ram, and dragon, Uchten, Dosei no Kyodai Ringu. Space release. Giant Saturn rings. With those words, two massive energy discs materialized in his hands, surprising Kimimaro. "Try to avoid this," he exclaimed, throwing the two discs at his opponent. Kimimaro was unable to avoid the two energy discs, which exploded on contact, just as Naruto had hoped. As smoke filled the area, the Uzumaki realized that it would not be enough to keep him down. Thus, he rallied all of his remaining clones to form a circle around Kimimaro and waited for the smoke to clear. The Sound Ninja, who was kneeling on one knee on the ground with his arms forming a X in front of him, had taken a direct hit from the two projectiles Naruto threw at him once the surroundings were clear as daylight again. Surprisingly, he emerged unscathed, save for the fact that his skin can be seen producing smoke as a result of the heat caused by the blonde boy's attack. His eyes were closed, and as he stood up, ready to retaliate, he heard a chorus of voices around him. "Uchten. Tengoku no Kasen." All the clones screamed, pointing their index fingers at him before firing a yellow laser beam. Due to the number of attacks, Kimimaro was unable to dodge them, forcing him to fall to his knees and try to endure the damage. In fact, the combined attacks of the Naruto's copies were so powerful that the ground beneath him cracked, causing him to fall into a hole and be buried by layers of rocks, slowly cutting off his breathing. While this was going on, Naruto was completely unaware that the coffin that held Sasuke inside began to emit purple smoke. The continuous assault lasted for half a minute, until the clones began to vanish one by one. Naruto's overuse of the technique has forced him to cancel his shadow clone jutsu so that it does not consume too much of his chakra. Panting slightly, he returned his sword to its sheath on his back, waiting for a response from Kimimaro. Was he alive or dead? If he doesn't move or say anything, it must mean he's dead. But when an arm suddenly emerged from the spot where he was supposedly buried, Naruto realized he wasn't dead yet. Kimimaro pulled himself out of his grave, much like a zombie rising from its grave, and there was a slight change in his body. There were black markings all over his skin in the shape of straight lines that ran from his face to his body. His clothes were slightly torn as a result of Naruto's technique, revealing a portion of his chest, which was also covered in black markings. His eyes were closed, and he was trying to hide his rage at the time. This blonde kid was getting on his nerves by the second. But what are his techniques, anyway? It doesn't matter. He can now put an end to this fight now that he is in his first stage. Seeing the Uzumaki charge directly at him with his right arm outstretched, he could now demonstrate that he was not to be trifled with. "I'm going to end this now, you jerk. You used to look a lot better than you do now," he declared as sharp raindrops appeared on his skin from his right arm. "Rain MK. Rainmaker," he yelled, rushing towards the sound ninja with one of his signature techniques, but Kimimaro made no move to dodge or counter it. Naruto's eyes widened as Kimimaro suddenly grabbed his arm just as the boy was about to hit his throat, halting the intended lariat. What the hell happened? What's going on? He wondered, trying to free himself from his adversary's grasp. Hey, what's going on? How come I can't move? I'm not sure how he did it, but I can tell his strength has improved, Kit. Or maybe it's not just his strength. His speed, stamina, and chakra reserves may have also been improved. Be cautious from now on. I'm sure he was irritated after seeing himself become overwhelmed. However, I would advise you to use the least amount of chakra possible for this fight. Okay, I got it. He finished, interrupting their conversation. Now I just need to get out of his arm. He tried to pull his own arm free from Kimimaro's grasp with his other hand, but he couldn't because the white-haired man had a firm grip on him and was staring at the blonde blankly. Naruto clenched his teeth and began punching his stomach with his left arm, forcing the Auto Nin to release his arm. Kimimaro didn't seem affected by the punches, not even flinching, so the blonde boy was left with only one option, even though it would waste more chakra. Empowering his next strike with Meteor increased the strength of his punch by an enormous amount, and with his next attack, it was enough for Kimimaro to widen his eyes slightly at the pain he felt. However, it was still insufficient for Naruto to free himself from his grasp. In response to the Uzumaki's attack, he began squeezing the boy's arm, gradually cutting off his blood flow and causing Naruto to scream in pain at his own strength. As he considered his next move, a white-looking spike protruded from his shoulder, which resembled his own bone. Naruto's gaze darted to his opponent's situation. What was going on? Was that his own skeleton? Was he even a human being? Kimimaro's questions were answered when he used his free right hand to grab the white spike on his own shoulder and pull it out of his body. Naruto's jaw dropped when he saw that ability, which answered one of his questions. Since earlier, the sound shinobi had been fighting him with his own bones. Surely, the white spikes he had used against his clones were no longer in his hand as he began to speak. This is where you will perish. You will have the distinct honor of being the victim of my second dance. Tsubaki no Mai, Camille's dance. He held the blade tightly in his hand, ready to stab Naruto, only for the latter to counter with a quick technique that caught Kimimaro off guard. Taiken no Hikari, he exclaimed, focusing the majority of his chakra in his eyes. Genjutsu was not his strong suit in battle, and he frequently blundered when attempting to incorporate eye illusion techniques into his fights, but he had no choice at the time because one of his arms was being held. After only a few seconds, he began emitting bright light with greater intensity than the sun's, forcing Kimimaro to cover his eyes with both arms, releasing Naruto in the process. Naruto, now free of his restraint, pulls out Stardust once more, attempting to rush towards Kimimaro while his Genjutsu is still active. He took a deep breath and stared directly at his opponent in front of him, focusing on his figure and closing his eyes, holding his sword tightly in his two hands. Raisei Setsuden. He yelled, allowing himself to be coated in the yellow aura provided by his meteor, including his sword. His eyes opened as he flew straight towards Kimimaro, passing through his figure, as soon as his entire body was covered in bright light. Naruto took a few deep breaths, thinking he had completed his task. His sword was thrust out as if he had just stabbed someone, and his knees were slightly bent, indicating a unique battle stance. He was about to resheath Stardust when he felt a powerful kick hit him in the back, causing him to stumble to the ground and roll away several times. Getting back to his feet, he looked at the spot where he had been caught off guard, and that's when he noticed Kimimaro with his right foot sticking out, completely unharmed by his previous technique. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise as Kimimaro approached him. "That's too bad," he said. "You would have succeeded in your plan. Your genjutsu was simply insufficient to keep me down." With those words, he began to run towards the boy, his bone sword clutched tightly in his hand. "Damn it, I should never have used genjutsu in the first place." He chided himself, before noticing that the white-haired man had appeared in front of him in less than a few seconds. Kimimaro began unleashing a variety of different slashes in an attempt to stab Naruto, but the blonde did his best to dodge every single attack he made, relying solely on instinct. Kimimaro's attack speed did not slow as he continued to make various swipes to pierce his opponent. Naruto was growing tired by the second, fearing that the auto nin would not stop his assault sooner or later. Kimimaro was on a different level right now, despite his high stamina. When Naruto's movements slowed, the white-haired man took advantage of the opportunity to deliver a quick swipe towards the boy's chest, cutting his skin open. While the latter was resisting the pain, Kimimaro took advantage of his vulnerability and delivered a straight right punch towards Naruto's exposed chest, sending the boy flying away due to his enhanced strength. Naruto had to stop rolling on the ground for a few seconds before he could go any further. Slowly, he rose to his feet and glared at the sound nin, who simply stared back. Kurama was slowly healing his open chest, so he performed the ram seal. "Whether you like it or not, you bastard, I'm taking Sasuke back," he growled, focusing on his chakra in the process. "Fool," he said neutrally. "Have you realized how pointless it is? You cannot overpower me while I am in this state," he pointed to himself, specifically the black markings all over his body, to explain. "I have no idea what kind of techniques you used earlier, but I can confidently say that you cannot defeat me. You won't be able to save the one you call Sasuke. You see, I've never been defeated before, and it won't happen again. This coffin will be brought to Lord Orochimaru in order for him to live forever," he explained, pointing to the coffin containing Sasuke. "I will not fail him, and I would die before succumbing to defeat at the hands of a small child. Anything you try will have no effect on me right now." "Did you hear what he said, Kurama?" Naruto inquired quietly. "He claims that Orochimaru wants Sasuke so that he can become immortal." "I did, indeed." "Then your guess was correct. He wanted your Uchiha friend all along. Talk to me after you finish this fight, Kit. Diverting your attention away from the battle can lead to your death. I'll just sit here pondering why the snake bastard wants your friend." After feeling Kurama cut off their mental connection, the blonde boy's mind drifted back to reality. Kimimaro was still in his place, having not moved an inch. This made him smile slightly as he felt his chest wound gradually heal. "Yes, you are correct. After seeing you withstand my meteor and rainmaker, anything I try will be ineffective. As a result, I'll just have to use something effective against me. If you want it that way, I can crank it up a notch," he spoke up, going through a few hand seals as he did so. Ram ox monkey rat tiger horse hare boar serpent. After completing the set, he closed his eyes and slammed his right palm on the ground, causing a silvery-like aura to quickly envelope his body before abruptly disappearing into the air. Kimimaro raised an eyebrow at what had happened to Naruto so suddenly. A silver aura. And then it vanished. This kid must know a lot of special techniques. Looking at the boy's forehead protector, he began to wonder what Naruto could possibly be hiding. First, his eyes turned yellow. Then he temporarily blocked my vision. He can also materialize small discs in his hands that are actually explosives. Among other things. Who is this kid? He must have some kind of Kekkei Genkai. I doubt Lord Orochimaru even knows who he is. Suigen BD Oribu. Mercury Overdrive, Naruto exclaimed, rising to his feet and opening his eyes. 10 minutes. He reasoned. According to the scroll, whenever I use this technique, I only have 10 minutes. I'd better make this worthwhile. He quickly pulled Stardust from its sheath and pointed his sword at his opponent. How about we settle this in round 2? He asked, smirking. You almost killed me earlier, why don't you finish the job then? He mocked, hoping for a hostile reaction from him. Arrogant boy. He muttered under his breath as he re-prepared his bone sword. Alright, I'll grant you your wish. Your wish for a quick death. He finished with a threatening tone, rushing towards Naruto with his increased speed, but the latter didn't even consider moving from his position. Kimimaro appeared in front of him less than 5 seconds later, ready to deliver the knockout blow. Die, he said quietly, thrusting his right arm with his sword forward towards Uzumaki's chest, who managed to block it at the last second with Stardust's sharp edge. Kimimaro's eyes widened so much that he didn't notice the young Chunin's knee hitting him in the gut. Because he was caught off guard by the sudden blow, the white-haired man bowed forward. How did he catch up to my speed? He wondered, dodging an incoming punch for Naruto. And only a few seconds later, their roles had been reversed. Previously, Naruto had been so overwhelmed by Kimimaro's incredible speed in attacking that he relied solely on his instincts to prevent every slash and swipe. However, the sound Nin had been caught off guard by surprise that he let the boy make the first move. Naruto managed to improve his speed to the point where it rivaled, if not surpassed, Kimimaro's during the first stage of his cursed mark. Kimimaro would have fought back, but Naruto gave him no chance with his unpredictable and unorthodox attacks, which caused the white-haired man to simply fall back while evading every swipe of the boy's sword. This particular event lasted for several minutes, and Kimimaro, like Naruto, began to feel tired. However, due to his enhanced state, the latter was able to resist. He also knew that once the effects of the overdrive technique wore off, he'd experience a slight pain in his chest, making him vulnerable. 4 minutes left. I gotta keep it up. Even he can't keep dodging forever, he said to Kimimaro. Surely, his stamina is limited as well. He was so focused on his attack that he didn't notice a small rock in front of him, causing him to trip and fall to the ground, allowing his opponent to rest. When he saw Kimimaro about to stab him in the chest while he was on the ground, Naruto cursed in his head. He rolled to his side quickly before performing a leg sweep that knocked his opponent off his feet. The blonde Uzumaki used this opportunity to quickly get back on his feet, and just as he had predicted, the Auto Nin did as well. They narrowed their eyes at each other, starting an intense battle of blades that could only be described as magnificent. Because Kimimaro's speed was enhanced by the first stage of his transformation, and Naruto's speed was enhanced by a technique, it was nearly impossible to follow them with the naked eye. Meanwhile, while they were too preoccupied with proving who was superior, the purple smoke emitted by the nearby coffin became more intense and concentrated, indicating that something bad was about to happen. The battle of blades lasted several minutes, with neither side willing to give up. They were evenly matched the entire time, matching each other strike for strike, and nobody gained an advantage over the other. Because of how fast both of their paces were and how much strength they put into their attacks, a large portion of the grassy field was shaved in the aftermath of their fight. Currently, Kimimaro still had enough stamina to fight while Naruto was counting the seconds. There was only a short time left before his overdrive wore off, and for failing to bring his opponent down, he began mentally scolding himself for not being able to beat his enemy while he still could. Because he won't be able to defend himself once the effects of overdrive wear off. It appeared to be a miracle, but what happened all of a sudden seemed to be enough to put an end to their battle. The coffin that held Sasuke inside could no longer withstand the intensity of the purple smoke it was emitting, and it exploded, sending various wood chunks flying everywhere. The sound of something exploding not far away caught both Naruto and Kimimara's attention, putting an end to their seemingly endless fight. They turned their gaze to the direction where they heard the sound, and while Kimimaro was unaffected, the Uzumaki was overcome with confusion and curiosity. Purple smoke obscured the area around the coffin, preventing anyone from seeing what was inside. However, Naruto could definitely mention that he saw a pair of bat-like wings within that area, which piqued his interest even more. He sighed at the same time. This could be a new foe he has to deal with just to reclaim Sasuke. The chances were 50-50 that it was either an enemy or an ally, but the blonde Chunin had reservations about the person being an ally. As the purple smoke dissipated, he noticed that the wings were also slowly dissipating, heading to who knows where. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw who it was after the smoke had cleared, which took about a minute. Naruto couldn't stop himself from being shocked as soon as he saw the unmistakable blue shirt. Sasuke. He exhaled, unable to believe his friend had just emerged from the exploding coffin. He began to regain his composure after shaking his head furiously to get rid of the shock in his mind. "Hello, Teme. It's great to see you. It's great to see you got out of that little box. It saves me the trouble of coming to get you. Come on, help me deal with this guy and we'll be able to get back to the village." Instead of responding immediately, the entire room fell silent for a brief moment. It took about a minute for him to finally hear an answer from the Uchiha, which was unexpected. He burst out laughing. Sasuke simply laughed. Naruto raised an eyebrow in perplexity, while his friend laughed like a psychopath. This particularly perplexing instance lasted a few seconds before erupting into a full-fledged laugh, with an underlying tone of insanity and humor. Is he amusing himself because he misses the village? Or was it because it was now 2-1 in their favor? When he saw Sasuke running away from him, away from the battlefield, leaving Naruto alone with Kimimaro, it appears that it was neither of those reasons. "Hey, Teme!" he exclaimed, attempting to contact Sasuke. "Where are you going?" "The village is in this direction, idiot." Despite those two statements, Sasuke continued to run away from him, causing the Uzumaki to narrow his eyes. Something was clearly wrong with Sasuke because he just ignored him. The raven-haired boy didn't even turn to face Naruto. Maybe something happened to him while he was inside the coffin? Nothing came out of Naruto's mouth after that, as he could only watch Sasuke walk away. The blonde boy was left with only one thought, and it couldn't be more accurate about what was going on right now. What's the deal with Sasuke? Kit, I can sense pure negative emotions from your friend. Kurama said inside Naruto's head. What? I can sense hatred and anger in him. Mostly directed at his older brother. He's not feeling anything else right now. How could that be? I thought he'd moved on from that. Naruto was now completely perplexed. Sasuke promised not to seek vengeance, right? Why was he acting this way now? Kit, I honestly don't know. It would be preferable if you discovered it for yourself, he said this while crossing his arms and closing his eyes. Seriously? Can't you figure it out? When Naruto saw Kurama shrug, he sweated and groaned. Fine, I'll handle it myself. However, just as he thought he was back in the real world, he felt a jolt of pain in his chest and fell to his knees. Hissing in pain, he threw down his sword and clutched his own chest, panting heavily. Damn, I was distracted. The effects have worn off. He didn't realize it at the time, but the time remaining for his overdrive continued to count down even as he tried to persuade his friend to return. Kimimaro returned his attention to Naruto after seeing Sasuke flee. He knew exactly where the Uchiha was going and where it would lead, so he knew his mission was complete. Now he just had to make sure that no one, including the blonde boy he's facing, stood in his way of reaching Otogakure. But as he turned to face Naruto, he noticed the young Chunin on his knees, panting incessantly. So that last technique you used took its toll? He asked as he approached the boy. I've told you that you can't defeat me while you're in this state, he said, referring to himself as the black linings all over his body vanished, returning him to normal. You can't hold me back, Naruto said, attempting to appear defiant. I'm going to get Sasuke back, one way or another. He was lifted up by his shirt before being punched in the stomach, causing him to scream in pain while spitting out a handful of blood before being thrown to the side like a ragdoll. Brave words. From a boy about to die, he exclaimed, closing in on Naruto with his bone sword in hand, determined to end things once and for all. However, before Kimimaro could even get close, someone jumped in and kicked him away before he could even reach Naruto, which did nothing for the white-haired man. The Uzumaki, taken aback by the sudden rescue, widened his eyes to see who had come to his aid. The green tracksuit gave it away, indicating it was someone he knew well. Bushy brows, he exclaimed, surprised to see Rock Lee at such an odd hour. What are you doing here? You're meant to be at the hospital. You said it, didn't you? I'm fine, Naruto, Lee said as he assumed his battle stance. I left because I want to assist you all in bringing Sasuke back to the village. I don't want to be ineffective at this time, so I have to contribute in some way. Naruto, I'll take care of this guy. You proceed to catch up with Sasuke. Are you insane? Questioned Naruto. This guy is far too powerful. You have no chance against him. I can take care of him, Naruto. Just hurry up to Sasuke. If you sit over there, we'll lose him. Yeah, but Lee cut him off before he could say anything else by turning his head slightly to face him. Naruto, do you want to reclaim Sasuke? If you really want him back, get up quickly from the ground. Guy-sensei would not want you to sit around doing nothing. If you stay down there, we might lose Sasuke's trail, and you're the only one who can get him back to the leaf right now. Shikamaru, Neji, Choji, and Kiba won't let you just sit there, will they? Naruto looked down at the ground, thinking about what to say. Meanwhile, Kimimaro had already recovered from Lee's kick and was just staring at them, doing nothing. You know, bushy brows, I was wrong about you, Naruto stated as he picked up his sword from the ground and resheathed it. You're pretty good with words too, he continued, grinning at his friend, only to be met with a smile of his own from Lee. Are you sure you'll be able to take on this guy on your own? He asked again, only to be met with a thumbs up. Alright, I'll trust you in this. I'm going to take back Sasuke. When he looked down at his own body, he noticed that his wounds had already healed. You should kick his bushy brows, Naruto said as he began to run in the direction that Uchiha had just taken. I won't let you interfere with Lord Orochimaru's plans, the sound ninja said as he positioned himself in front of Naruto's path to block his path. Unfortunately, Naruto was too fast for him to even touch the young boy. Raisei. Meteor, he yelled as the yellow light that had previously engulfed him reappeared, quickly enveloping him as he flew past Kimimaro with such speed that the latter didn't even notice him move. The blonde appeared in front of him for a split second before disappearing. He quickly turned around to see Naruto had moved about 50 meters away, and the yellow light covering his body had vanished. Kimimaro had no chance of catching up to him now, and thus the Uzumaki was able to flee. I will bring you down even if it means dying, he declared, preparing to run after Naruto despite knowing he had no chance of catching up now. Rock Lee appeared in front of him almost immediately, ready to fight, before he could even make a move. I'm not going to let you go after my friend, Lee said, staring down at his adversary. I'm going to do 1,000 push-ups before I let you. Kimimaro closed his eyes and sighed lightly as the tension around the two ninjas began to rise. He reopened them after a few moments and prepared to fight the young shinobi. If you want a quick demise, I would give it to you, he said, as his sharp bones protruded from his body, ready to fight. Rock Lee versus Kimimaro like canon. Include Gaara when he shows up. Naruto couldn't let it happen. He couldn't let his friend escape his sight. As soon as he left Kimimaro to fight Lee, he had only one thought. He had to get Sasuke back, no matter what the cost. He was able to catch up to the Uchiha when he was within range of his vision after enough running. During that time, Naruto begged his friend to accompany him back to the village, but the response was always the same. That's why he didn't respond at all. This particularly pointless chase had lasted nearly 30 minutes, and Naruto had even had to perform a genjutsu while doing so. Given that Sasuke was not responding to Naruto's pleas and shouts, it appeared that this high-speed pursuit would never end. He didn't want to use his meteor because it would drain a lot of chakra, and he didn't know if he had to fight anyone else before getting to Sasuke, so it was best to save his energy. Only when they arrived at a location with two massive statues did Sasuke finally come to a halt as soon as he landed on the other statue. This location was known as the Valley of the End, and it was located near the border between the lands of fire and sound. It was built in the aftermath of a legendary battle between two of the greatest shinobi of the previous generation, Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. The statue closest to the land of fire was Hashirama, with Madara opposing him, symbolizing his defection from the village of Konoha many years ago. A magnificent waterfall separated the two statues, with the rock formation below a sight to behold. Sasuke showed no signs of slowing down, but Naruto would never give up even if the entire world was against him. Even if it meant chasing his Uchiha pal to the ends of the earth. Naruto took a deep breath as they approached the first statue, knowing that his next words would most likely deplete his voice this time. Naruto decided to put an end to this joke as soon as he saw Sasuke jump over to the next statue. Sasuke. His roar could be heard throughout the area, and surprisingly, that word alone was enough to bring the raven-haired boy to a halt, just as he was about to continue running after landing on Madara Uchiha's statue. When he saw that he had finally come to a halt, Naruto came to a halt as well, just at the edge of Hashirama's statue before attempting the jump. He began to take deep breaths, panting slightly, before speaking in his usual cheerful tone. "Hello, Teme. Good to see you finally decided to stop playing tag. Why are you running away from me in the first place? Did those four cretins tell you that you should be afraid of me? Don't worry, big baby, I'm not going to hurt you. Now come on and let's get back to the village, everyone's wae." He cut himself from his own words when Sasuke turned around, revealing his face. His appearance, however, was vastly different from how he appeared back then, because black markings similar to those of the Sound 4 were visible on his face, particularly the left side, where it even covered his eye, changing its color to yellow instead of black. Naruto's eyes widened as he noticed the change in his friend's appearance, which caused the latter to smirk lightly. "What's the problem, Dobi? Do you like my new look?" "It feels like I've just gotten out of bed, ready to take on the world," he replied, pointing to his face as the black markings vanished. "What happened to you, Sasuke?" the blonde inquired. "How come you have the same black marks as the four people who took you?" "Oh, you noticed that? It's just a small gift from Orochimaru, nothing special." When Orochimaru's name was mentioned, the Uzumaki flinched at what he heard from his friend's mouth. Sasuke saw Naruto's obvious surprise and decided to add something else. "I was about to go to his village so that he could give me the power I craved in order to defeat my brother. But you had the audacity to stop me, huh? So, what do you want to say to me? I don't have time for your shenanigans, so hurry up. Do you have a problem? Are you paying attention to yourself right now?" Naruto's tone became increasingly agitated. "We've got to get home, idiot. Forget everything those four cretins told you. Sakura-chan and the others are eagerly awaiting your return. I don't like repeating myself, Dobi. But it appears that I will have to do so just so you understand. I'm on my way to Orochimaru's village to obtain the power I've always desired. I don't care about you or anyone else from the Leaf. All I care about is exacting vengeance on my deceased mother and father, as well as the other members of my clan. You're insane. You promised you wouldn't seek vengeance again, right? What the hell is wrong with you? No, in fact, this is the first time I'm actually using my head. He responded, the black marks left by his cursed mark gradually disappearing. Naruto's pupils constricted. I'm not sure what happened that night, but the curse mark Orochimaru left you with has clearly messed with your head again, because you're talking about that snake bastard. He silently exhaled an inward sigh of relief after those words. At least it's not his Mangekyo, he reasoned. If that's the case, it'll be even worse. On the contrary, it's given me something that all those years I struggled in the leaf didn't, he continued after a brief pause. Perspective. The blonde cocked her brow. What exactly does that mean? It's really simple, Sasuke said, shrugging his shoulders. I've lost my motivation. I'm not making the expected progress. I can feel the power and rage brewing within me, but I can't channel it. These soft feelings, these bonds. They're weakening me. And I need to get rid of them if I'm going to be stronger. Sasuke, you know that's not true. Of course, Naruto. It's gotten so bad that you've surpassed me. We used to be equals, rivals, but when you defeated both me and the Hyuga at the same time, I realized I was inferior to you. Your mother's death empowered you. With the power your mother left you after her death, you performed wonders and extraordinary feats. Whereas I, despite this, he paused before closing his eyes. Naruto's eyes widened again in surprise as he saw Sasuke effortlessly activate his Mangekyo Sharingan. When my mother died at the hands of my brother, I was left in the dirt. He closed his eyes again after that last statement, only to open them again a few seconds later to see that his dojutsu had deactivated, indicating that he had complete control over it. Sasuke, you need help, he reasoned. Let me up. He was cut off by the Uchiha. Do you not understand, Naruto? I'm done with all of you. You, Sakura, and everyone else. You're all meaningless to me right now. Naruto was stunned by what he was hearing. What about that conversation we had? You admitted you were wrong, and I heard it with my ears from your mouth. You acknowledged and regretted your errors. You renounced that path, and you stated that we would collaborate to achieve our objectives. Was all of that a lie to you? A simple, cold, and cruel deception? Precisely. That confession had no meaning for me. Nothing will ever change the fact that vengeance is my #1 priority. The blonde boy clenched his teeth to keep his inner rage at bay. I see. So there's nothing I can say or do to get you to stop. You won't be able to say anything for a few moments, he threatened, activating his Sharingan. It appears that the curse mark not only inflated your ego, but also made you very stupid if you truly believe you can beat me. Sasuke laughed. After I leave your corpse here to drown, we'll find out who's stupid. The Uzumaki pointed his finger at Sasuke, narrowing his eyes so much that he couldn't see the raven-haired boy at all. Big talk for someone who lost to me when the odds were 2-1. I've been training since then. What makes you think you'll leave here with me beaten down? Don't worry, the odds are pretty even this time. Sasuke responded by indicating his eyes. You've got your tricks, and I've got mine. Are you really going to force me to do this? He then clenched his fists, giving his friend one more chance to stand down. I don't want to hurt you because you're my friend. But if you press me, Sasuke, I'll have no choice but to shut your arrogant mouth. Actually, I'm doing you a favor. I'm reuniting you with your pitiful mother. Haven't you always wanted to be with her? The Uchiha mocked. Once I kill you, you'll be reunited with your beloved mother. Happy in the afterlife. Isn't that a wonderful fate, Naruto? That was the last straw for the blonde Uzumaki, as a bright light quickly covered his entire body, activating his meteor before he flew towards his friend. Sasuke. He yelled, tackling Sasuke to the rocky surface of the statue the moment Naruto approached him. Naruto Uzumaki vs Sasuke Uchiha. As soon as he arrived at his friend, Naruto grabbed his blue shirt and began slamming him down on the rocky surface, the yellow light provided by his meteor dissipating. "Whatever it is that's messing with your head," he yelled at his friend. "You must get it out. This is not Sasuke. Sakura-chan is concerned for you. Forget about Orochimaru and the vengeance. Simply come home with me." After his rant, he paused in his assault, panting slightly from the speed with which he continued slamming the Uchiha's head into the rock. Naruto then looked into his half-lidded eyes, which were on the verge of collapsing. Sasuke then spat on Naruto's face, which was completely covered in blood. Before he could retaliate with a punch, Sasuke delivered a massive headbutt that caused his opponent to dizzy for a moment, which he took advantage of, kicking Naruto away as he fell off the statue and into the waterfall below. He then rose to his feet, spitting another handful of blood before jumping down to follow Naruto. When he heard someone else fall down onto the waterfall, he turned his head upwards to see Sasuke close behind him. He needed to think quickly if he was going to defeat Sasuke without hurting him too much. Whatever happened, he was still his friend, and Naruto couldn't harm his best friend. He activated his meteor and flew towards the waterfall's far side, near Hashirama's statue, landing perfectly on top of the water. "How much chakra do I have left, Kurama?" he inquired of the tailed beast within him. "Nearly halfway," said the Kyuubi. "You better think of every way you can beat him, Kit. I'm pretty sure he's on full charge right now, and he intends to kill. Just because he's your friend doesn't mean you won't hurt him. Got it?" "I'm aware of that," Naruto shot back. "However, if I run out of chakra, could you give me a boost? I know I'm not worthy in your eyes, but this is my friend we're discussing. I can't let him go to Orochimaru because that snake bastard intends to use him. And I can't let that happen. I'm not going to let it happen." Kurama finally sighed in defeat after seeing his host's determined expression. "Alright, I'll lend you my power when your reserves run low." He then gave the boy a suspicious look. "However, make sure to finish this fight as soon as possible, okay? I can't keep supporting you indefinitely." "Roger," he exclaimed, willingly severing his link with the tailed beast. Returning to reality, he noticed Sasuke had landed on the water and was now running towards him. After taking a deep breath, he clenched both of his fists and rushed towards his friend, who was currently his enemy. Drawing both of their arms back, they delivered punches towards each other at the same time, causing their fists to collide and causing a minor shockwave to separate them slightly. Returning to the fight, both engaged in a vicious exchange of punches and kicks, with neither of them emerging as the victor. Every attack they launched at each other was either countered or parried by the other, demonstrating how skilled both ninjas were and how well they knew one another. This frustrating slugfest between the two boys lasted more than 2 minutes until Naruto managed to land a right punch to Sasuke's cheeks, who in turn managed to deliver a kick to the former's gut, sending both boys a considerable distance apart. Naruto then pulled out Stardust, clutching it tightly in both hands, and charged after Sasuke, determined to end it as soon as possible. Sasuke moved as quickly as a cat, avoiding each of Naruto's swings in what appeared to be slow motion. It didn't take long for Naruto to become consumed with the desire to bring the Uchiha down, slashing with both hands all over him, no longer caring what happened. However, Sasuke takes advantage of this by sweeping Naruto off his feet, causing the blonde to fall face first into the water. The raven-haired boy then snatched Stardust from Naruto's right hand and prepared to impale him with it, but Naruto rolled out of the way. He then delivered a quick kick to his knee, causing Uchiha to double over and fall to his knees. The Uzumaki then rose to his feet and snatches his opponent's sword, returning it to its sheath. He then activated his meteor on his right hand and prepared to punch Sasuke with his enhanced fist, only for the latter to launch himself backwards to evade the attack, throwing a slew of shuriken at Naruto, who only used his right arm to deflect all of them. Sasuke went through a quick set of hand seals before ending in the tiger seal almost immediately after seeing Naruto block his projectiles. Kaiten. Jikaki no Jutsu. Fire release. Excellent fireball technique. He ran up the stone statue behind him for a few seconds before turning back to Naruto down below, channeling chakra onto his feet. Die, Naruto. He screamed, exhaling a massive stream of flames nearly the size of a small building. Naruto's eyes widened and his mouth slightly dropped as he compared this fire technique to his own and previous ones performed by Sasuke. He then shook his head a few times to break out of his trance, quickly performing a few hand seals to counter Sasuke's jutsu. Hare snake bird tiger. He then pointed his right index finger towards the center of the stream of flames, before clinging to his right arm, unsure if just one arm would be enough to stop the impending fire attack. Uchten. Tengoku no Kasen. He yelled, shooting a yellow laser beam from his finger straight through the flames, creating a hole in the middle that allowed him to see Sasuke. Sasuke simply smirked and pulled out his Konoha forehead protector, using it as a mirror to reflect the laser beam back towards Naruto. The blonde boy's eyes widened in surprise at how easily his technique was countered. He didn't even notice that it was redirected towards him precisely, hitting him in the stomach, causing him to fall to the ground, canceling his attack as he clutched his abdomen. I never thought a laser beam could be reflected. He reflected as he looked up at Sasuke in the stone statue. How did he know what to do right away? It's as if he acted instinctively. Sasuke acted quickly, going through another set of hand seals to exploit Naruto's fallen state. Bird snake monkey ram, Reiki. Lightning ball. With those words, small lightning balls began to materialize all around, before being sent towards Naruto. Realizing that he was on the water, Naruto quickly jumped back towards the opposite statue, channeling chakra towards his feet so that he'll stick to the rock itself. When Sasuke's technique reached the water, the electricity quickly spread due to the water's properties as a conductor, making it dangerous for either of them to even set foot there. Naruto would then dispatch another batch of seals to counter Sasuke's final planned attack. Tiger, horse, monkey, ram, and dragon. As 4 energy discs appeared on each of his palms, he threw out his arms on both sides of his body. Uchten. Dosei no Ringu. Space release. Saturn rings, he said before throwing one disc at Uchiha, who began running away to avoid being hit. The Uzumaki attempted to hit Sasuke with the remaining 3 discs, but he was too quick and easily avoided all 4. He flew over to the other rock statue, narrowing his eyes slightly, to get a better look at his adversary. Sasuke had run over to his intended landing spot, forcing Naruto to cancel his meteor flight while remaining in midair for a few seconds. However, before he could fall, the raven-haired Uchiha jumped off the statue, tackling his opponent towards the water, where he delivered a massive knee right in Naruto's gut, sending him flying away towards the other side of the waterfall. However, the blonde Chunin managed to keep his balance after landing by standing on one knee. He quickly looked up to see Sasuke's right hand covered in lightning, one of the latter's signature techniques. He resorted to using another technique, one that was completely useless at the time but would be a good way of creating an opening, in order to quickly bounce back. Uchten. Shwakusei no Ikari. He exclaimed, as 5 medium-sized rocks materialized behind him, before sending them all towards Sasuke with his right arm. Useless. Sasuke mocked, using his Chidori to easily destroy all the rocks Naruto hurled at him, and it didn't stop him from charging towards his opponent. However, one rock slipped through his defenses and struck him in the left knee, causing him to fall over and land face first, effectively canceling his attack. Naruto used this opportunity to rush behind Sasuke, grabbing him by the waist and lifting the Uchiha in a massive suplex, but he was surprised when Sasuke managed to land on his feet behind him. The latter then punched him in the face, knocking him back several feet. Naruto then felt his adversary sit on top of him and begin punching him in the face repeatedly, severely scuffing his appearance. After about 20 punches, Sasuke began to take deep breaths before preparing for another punch, which Naruto stopped by slamming his elbow against his jaw, causing him to fall backwards. While Kurama was healing all of Naruto's wounds, he gradually rose to his feet. The Uchiha stood up and growled at his former friend's persistence before charging towards him again, this time drawing his right arm back. "Naruto!" he yelled, sending a right hook towards the blonde, who managed to duck under it, immediately grabbing Sasuke by the waist again, before attempting another suplex, which hit successfully, with the raven-haired boy screaming in pain as he crashed on his back. Keeping the momentum going, Naruto rolled over and maintained his grip on Sasuke's waist, pulling them back up to their feet, where he switched his grip on his friend's right wrist. Before the Uzumaki performed his technique, he gave Sasuke a gentle push, turning him around to face him. "Rain MK. Rainmaker," he yelled, striking one of his favorite jutsus and striking Sasuke in the neck with the sharp raindrops on his arm, severely weakening the Uchiha. He didn't stop there, however, as he still held Sasuke's wrist. Pulling him back up to his feet, he then delivered another vicious lariat, causing Sasuke's neck to bleed. But he didn't stop there, pulling his opponent back to his feet before attempting another one. "Snap out of it!" he yelled, hitting the final Rainmaker before letting go of Sasuke's wrist and falling forward in slight exhaustion. Panting slightly, he began to use the waterfall's water to wash the blood from his face, believing that the battle was now over. He was proven incorrect when he heard a dark voice behind him. "Only one of us will make it out of here alive, Naruto." Naruto turned around, his eyes widening in surprise as he saw the black markings left by Sasuke's curse mark covering his entire body. "What did you do to yourself?" he wondered, quickly rising to his feet and preparing to fight again. "And it won't be you," he exclaimed, causing Naruto to snap. "This isn't you, Sasuke," he exclaimed as he began to run towards the Uchiha. "I'll go to any length to bring you back." In response, Sasuke only smirked as his eyes slowly transformed into the Mangekyo. That abruptly halted Naruto, who was terrified of what might happen if he used one of his new eyes abilities. As he looked down to examine them, he felt an intense burning sensation in his arms. He screamed in agony as his arms were burned by black-colored flames that he couldn't put out by shaking them off. He kept trying to shake the flames off, but they didn't go away, forcing him to use another of his techniques. "Uchten. Moru Susei," he said quickly, covering his arms in blue flames that managed to take over the black-colored ones, canceling Sasuke's jutsu. As soon as he felt his arms stop burning, he immediately cancelled his own jutsu, taking deep breaths as Kurama began healing the massive burns caused by Sasuke's unique fire technique. While Naruto was weak, Sasuke charged towards him with renewed and enhanced speed provided by his curse mark, launching an all-out assault on Naruto. It finally ended when he delivered a massive uppercut that launched the blonde boy into the air, spitting blood, before crashing back into the water, and it was a major miracle that he had landed on one knee. Defiant until the bitter end. "Naruto? I'll make certain that you don't see another ray of sunlight after our battle." He then rushed towards Naruto, who looked up with his brow furrowed as he performed the clone seal. "I need to buy some time until my arms heal," he thought, hissing in pain as the sky above them darkened. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu!" he yelled, over 30 clones appearing behind and beside him as they all charged towards Sasuke, while the original one began to rejuvenate himself. "This isn't going to stop me, Naruto!" exclaimed Sasuke, slicing through the clones with his Chidori. His strength and speed had been enhanced to the point where he could get through nearly all of the clones in less than a minute, turning his attention back to Naruto as his Mangekyo eyes began to bleed. "You're next," he exclaimed, running towards the original in an attempt to finally finish things, only for Naruto to get back up on his feet and begin evading every strike thrown at him by Sasuke. When he realized he couldn't keep up with the Uchiha's increased speed, he simply began jumping backwards until he reached a corner with nowhere else to go. "Damn it!" he cursed in his thoughts, before noticing that Sasuke was approaching him like a psychopathic murderer, with a crazy expression that expressed the desire to kill. "Oh, damn it, looks like I have no choice but to use this," he thought, focusing his chakra solely on his eyes. "Taiken no Hikari," he yelled, causing him to emit light as bright as the sun, stopping Sasuke in his tracks and forcing him to cover his eyes, which were already bleeding from not being accustomed to having his Mangekyo activated for even a few minutes. The Uchtengan was extremely powerful in its own right, as its genjutsus could fool even Sharingan users, but this was dependent on the user's skill in the technique itself. "Let's get him," yelled Naruto, rallying his remaining clones to Sasuke, who was engulfed in his genjutsu. The first clone then used the meteor to deliver a massive uppercut to Sasuke's gut, launching him into the air where the second clone was already waiting. The next clone then delivered a straight right punch that knocked the Uchiha several meters away, while the third one, who was on the waterfall, jumped high into the air before delivering a downward kick that knocked the defenseless Sasuke back down at the waterfall. All of Naruto's strikes were powered by his meteor, which increased his strength by nearly tenfold over his original. As he slowly struggled to his feet, a fourth Naruto clone appeared in front of him and delivered a right punch, which was immediately followed by another, who delivered a left punch, causing Sasuke to spit blood to the side a few times, breaking his durability that had been enhanced by the curse mark. When he turned to look in front of him again, he was caught in the jaw by a spinning high kick from a sixth copy of the Uzumaki, and because his defense was completely broken down, he was sent flying away at such an incredible speed that he appeared to be flying. Meanwhile, the original Naruto had activated his meteor and was speeding towards Sasuke, easily catching up to the Uchiha. He drew his right fist back before directing all of his meteor's power towards the right punch he delivered to Sasuke's gut. "Nanahoshi no Hantai," he screamed, hitting his friend square in the chest and sending him crashing down the waterfall, landing in a crater on the rocky ground beside the river that connected to the waterfall. Naruto's clones then vanished one by one as he deactivated his meteor, landing exhausted from their fight on the ground. He walked slowly towards the crater where Sasuke was, wiping the blood from his face. A worried expression crossed his face as he looked down at Sasuke's body. "Why did you have to flee?" he asked his friend, who was on the verge of passing out. "I don't understand it, Sasuke. What could Orochimaru possibly offer you that we don't have at a—" He was interrupted mid-sentence by a stab from behind. As he slowly turned his head to the side, blood began to drip from the side of his mouth, revealing Sasuke with a grim smile on his face. How? How? He struggled to look back in front of him, noticing that the one down the crater was a shadow clone who had vanished in a cloud of smoke. Damn it. I fell for it. He cursed, his teeth clenched. "Nothing will stop me from exacting my revenge on my brother, Naruto," he said coldly, plunging the kunai deeper into the Uzumaki's back, causing the latter to scream in pain. "Not even you," he finished, pulling out the kunai before kicking the blonde on his back, falling with a large splash into the river, his body sinking into its depths. What the hell is wrong with Sasuke's head? He screamed in his mind, drifting to his subconscious as his body sank into the river. He's not behaving normally. You call him your friend? Kurama asked, coming up behind him. You still call him a friend after he basically killed you and left you to die. Come on, Kurama. Please, please, please heal me. Sasuke may be walking away right now, and I can't let him. He begged. I'm not going to let him go to Orochimaru. If he does, he will be killed. Give me one good reason why I should, the tailed beast said. Naruto's fists were clenched. Just in case you hadn't noticed. We're both dying if you don't heal me. Kurama grinned. Correction. You're going to perish. Because I'm just a living entity of chakra, Kit, I'll just reform in a couple of years. Why are you suddenly being such a jerk? Can't you see Sasuke needs my assistance? I must put a stop to him. The tailed beast snorted, his arms crossed. Wrong. You're the one who requires assistance. He's abandoned you to drown. He truly deserted you. You can't save him right now. I must still save him. Then you should do it yourself. I told you before that you would have to do things on your own. I'm not going to be a chakra battery for you, Kit. I'll only give you free access to my power if I believe you're worthy of it. So you're just going to let me drown? I don't care if I'm worthy or not, you jerk. Don't you understand what a friend is? He may not consider me a friend right now, but I still consider him my best mate. He was my first friend, and I'm not about to let him go so easily. Kurama, it's exactly like your relationship with my mother. You said she was your first friend, didn't you? My memory is as sharp as it has ever been, Kit. Then stop complaining and heal me, damn it. Consider this. What would you do if Ka-san was put in Sasuke's place right now? You'd assist her, right? Regardless of the outcome? Of course I'd do it. Do you see where I'm going with this? Naruto inquired, sighing in response. There was a brief moment of silence before Kurama spoke again. I won't argue that you're correct. But at what cost? What are you willing to give up for a friend? Naruto raised an eyebrow in perplexity. What exactly do you mean? Your friend will undoubtedly continue to resist your efforts to assist him. How far are you willing to go to save him? Are you willing to extend your hand to him even when he's on the verge of being good or bad? Are you willing to give up an arm or a leg to get him back? Are you willing to give up your life for him? Will you go through all of that for the sake of saving a simple friend? The boy looked down, perplexed by Kurama's words. Yes, he was correct. Because something was tampering with Sasuke's mind, he will not listen to Naruto's pleas for him to stop and will do whatever it takes to kill him. So the spotlight was on Naruto this time. He had to save Sasuke while not inflicting any fatal damage on the Uchiha, because no matter what was going on right now, he was still Sasuke despite everything that had happened. He needed to be certain of two things: Sasuke's well-being and his own. Naruto grinned as he considered how to respond to the Biju. As Sasuke walked away with a smirk on his face, he came to a halt when he heard a splashing sound behind him. He turned around to see what it was, but his eyes widened when he saw his blonde-haired rival flying out of the water, wrapped in his yellow aura, before landing safely on the ground. However, just as the yellow light faded into thin air, a new aura, reddish-orange in color with a bubbly effect, engulfed the Uzumaki. While Sasuke was lost in his own thoughts, staring at what had happened to Naruto, the latter looked at his own hand, clenching it into a fist. So this is how Kurama's initial power feels like. He thought to himself, feeling as if he had just gained a tremendous amount of power. I already feel a mile taller. Don't waste time, Kit. Groaned the Biju from within the boy's mind. That form will only be available for you to use for a limited time. If I were you, I wouldn't waste time. Because that's the last time you'll be receiving help from me. After my chakra disappears, you're on your own to finish this fight all by yourself. Please don't remind me, Naruto sighed. Returning his focus to reality, he noticed Sasuke's smirk directed at him, prompting him to respond almost immediately in an attempt to enrage the Uchiha and continue the fight. It didn't take a genius to notice that throughout the fight, Sasuke appeared to be more sensitive to his own emotions, resulting in him taking insults and taunts more seriously than usual. Aren't you relieved to see me? In a mocking tone, the blonde said. Who is your best friend? Shouldn't you be relieved that you didn't actually drown your best friend? I have no friends. I severed ties with them the moment I left the village. Sasuke growled, his gaze narrowed at his opponent. And I'm going to break my bond with you here. However, how did you manage to survive my last attack? He inquired, his tone changing to one of interest as he activated his Sharingan. I felt my hand penetrate deep into your flesh and your blood spurt out. The one I attacked earlier couldn't possibly be a shadow clone. Is it because of that aura around you or something else? Naruto, on the other hand, remained silent. Wait, what the When Sasuke saw Naruto vanish in a flash of light, He assumed he had teleported. He's even faster than before. He thought to himself, immediately turning around to see where Naruto would strike next. This isn't good. If he's that fast now, there's no way I can He was interrupted in his thoughts when the blonde boy appeared out of nowhere in front of him, causing the Uchiha to take a few steps back in fear. Damn it, I couldn't predict where he'd attack me next. His speed suddenly increased. Returning his full attention to the fight, he then dodged the next few punches and kicks thrown at him by Naruto, demonstrating that his dojutsu still had advantages in situations like this. I need to stop his barrage of attacks. The Uchiha thought to himself, leaping into the air to gain some distance from the Uzumaki and weaving a few hand signs in the process. He then took a deep breath, preparing to spend a significant amount of his own chakra. Rat tiger dog ox rabbit tiger, Kaden, Hisenka no jutsu. He yelled, breathing out dozens of small fireballs towards Naruto in an unpredictable and quick fashion, intending to hit him from all angles. That dreadful technique won't help you any longer, Sasuke. Naruto said with a smug grin, unsheathing Stardust and gripping it tightly in his right hand. I can just fly towards you. The familiar yellow light began to envelope the Uzumaki once more, before he heard Sasuke's grim laughter even though he was thousands of feet above him. When Naruto attempted to move, he discovered that his 2 feet were connected by a chakra string that ran all the way to Sasuke, who was controlling it with only 2 fingers. Damn, he got me. Naruto exclaimed, scrambling to figure out what he should do. That's not all, Dobi. He exclaimed as he went through another round of hand seals. Kaden. Raika no jutsu, he breathed out a small stream of fire towards the string he was holding, which immediately grew in size upon contact and began rushing towards the other end of the line in a dragon-shaped form. With that added, Naruto was trapped in a situation where he had nowhere to go because he was immobilized. This is where you die. Sasuke exclaimed in a sadistic tone. No way, Sasuke. In response, Naruto sheathed Stardust once more and spoke with a grin while weaving a few hand signs. Dog, ram, tiger, horse, tiger, monkey, bird. He slammed his fist into the rocky ground after finishing the set of seals, causing it to crack slightly. Ukten. Neppu no Kaminoikari. He yelled, and almost immediately, a gust of cold wind blew through the area where they were. When Sasuke landed back on the ground, he saw that the fireballs he had just created were slowly freezing with each passing second, eventually reaching sub-zero temperatures. Impossible. He can also control ice? As he prepared to try another jutsu, Sasuke thought to himself. Kaden. Jikaki no jutsu. Fire release. Great fireball technique. The Uchiha breathed out another fireball, this one of gigantic proportions towards his enemy, but to his surprise, it slowly froze when it got within 5 meters of Naruto. How? How can this loser keep going without draining his chakra? How can he counter all of my attacks? He exclaimed, oblivious to the fact that Naruto was wearing the Kyuubi's chakra cloak. After concluding that his technique had been successfully executed, Naruto opened his eyes to see that all of Sasuke's intended fireballs were frozen in midair, with the cold wind produced by his technique gradually dissipating into normal wind. As a result, he felt the chakra string wrapped around his feet become frozen, making it brittle enough for Naruto to break off. I told you it would be useless. He exclaimed, pulling out his sword again before cutting all the frozen fireballs in half with one swipe, all exploding into shards in the end, leaving no other obstacles between him and Sasuke. Naruto pointed Stardust at Sasuke and gritted his teeth, revealing his fangs caused by his chakra cloak. I'm calling it quits now, Sasuke. Naruto yelled, charging towards his opponent while clutching his sword tightly. The Uchiha scowled, exposing a seal on his right bracer. You're not the only one with toys, Naruto. He smirked, reaching out his right arm only to see a sword emerge from the smoke. The sword was larger than a standard choket, with a black scabbard and matching hilt. Sasuke screamed as he grabbed the sword and dashed towards Naruto in the same battle stance. No way," said the blonde to himself. "Does Sasuke also have a sword? How did he get something like that?" He then shook his head quickly to clear his mind of those strange thoughts. "No, I'm not going to let this distract me. I need to stay focused, and this chakra cloak won't last much longer," he thought to himself, taking a quick glance at the orange chakra that Kurama had bestowed upon him. Closing his eyes, he concentrated on his hearing to hear the footsteps that he and Sasuke were making with every second, and then, just in time, he snapped them open again to respond to the oncoming strike. Clang. The sound of two swords clashing filled the rest of the valley as Naruto and Sasuke stared at each other, neither of them willing to give up the fight. After only a few seconds of staring each other down at close range, they separated and then charged again, slashing and striking each other with their full might. Unfortunately, Naruto's lack of experience and Sasuke's ignorance of his own actions resulted in an even fight, with neither gaining an advantage over the other. "This isn't going anywhere. I have to kill him right now," Sasuke thought to himself as he incorporated his arm into the fight by punching Naruto straight in the gut, causing him to kneel in pain as he jumped back as his left hand became covered in lightning. "Chidori!" Sasuke screamed, charging at his opponent at full speed, his Sharingan flaring to its full potential. Naruto quickly recovered from Uchiha's attack and pointed his sword at his foe with one eye closed, as if holding a gun. "Ten no Hari!" he yelled, as a yellow beam of energy shot out of stardust and flew towards Sasuke. The raven-haired Uchiha quickly rolled to the side to avoid the attack and began running towards Naruto with the intent to kill, eliminating any chance of him regaining his senses. "There's more where that came from," Uzumaki continued, firing a few more energy beams at his friend, but the latter dodged them all almost effortlessly, causing the blonde boy to become even more frustrated. Why is it so difficult to hit him? How can he still move so quickly? When Sasuke was about 5 meters away, Naruto was about to fire another energy beam when his eyes suddenly began to hurt, causing him to stop firing and close his eyes to recover. He felt himself being kicked in the stomach before being launched into the air by Sasuke himself because he was defenseless without the power of his eyes. When Naruto snapped his eyes open and breathed out a small fireball towards him, the Uchiha jumped up to follow him and prepared for a final downward slash to end the fight. "Damn it. You never know when to give up." As the two ninjas landed back on the ground, Sasuke cursed before using his sword to block the attack. "Your eyes. Aren't they hurting, Naruto?" he asked sarcastically after seeing Naruto standing with one side of his face covered, panting heavily from all the energy beams that had just taken a toll on him. Stardust was right next to him on the ground, and he was completely defenseless. "I know how you feel." He charged at his opponent, preparing for another technique that would give him an immediate victory. Sasuke had about half of his chakra left, and he was certain Naruto wouldn't last much longer due to his eyes. Hisenka no Jutsu, Kaiten. He exhaled 6 fireballs, all of which were aimed at the Uzumaki. However, because of the chakra cloak that was enveloping Naruto's body, it did no harm. That didn't bother Sasuke because when he saw that his attacks had completely removed the orange chakra from the blonde boy's body, he knew it was game over. Despite the protection provided by Kurama's chakra, Naruto still received some burns. "This is where our bond dies, Naruto," he shrieked, ready to stab his foe with his sword, only to be stopped in his tracks when the Uzumaki snapped his eyes open, and he actually became afraid. Naruto quickly picked up his sword and held it high above his head with both of his hands. A few seconds later, the sword began to glow brightly yellow as the Uzumaki roared like a wild animal. "Sasuke, this will be over in 3 moves. 1. Colossus Power, Kaijin no Chikara," he yelled, bringing Stardust down in one heavy slash right on top of Sasuke. When the Uchiha tried to move out of the way of the attack, he was unable to dodge for some reason, forcing him to raise his own sword defensively to deflect the incoming slash. Clang. Sasuke's eyes widened as a result. Shatter. Impossible! Exclaimed Uchiha as he saw Naruto's single attack shatter his blade in half. His hands were holding both ends of his sword as his eyes widened as he stared at its remains. What exactly are you? What kind of authority is this? He screamed in fear, his face contorted as he looked up at the Uzumaki. After a few seconds, Naruto stabbed his sword deep into the ground and lunged towards Sasuke with renewed vigor, blood trickling down his eyes. 2. Naruto screamed, reaching his opponent in a matter of seconds before launching the Uchiha into the air with a meteor-powered uppercut that reached the top of the waterfall. Almost immediately, a clone appeared beside Uzumaki to assist him with his technique. Raisei. Meteor, he screamed as he flew towards Sasuke, his technique ready. How? How come this Dobi is so strong? The strength given to Naruto's punch by Meteor was too much for Sasuke to handle, he thought to himself as he continued to fly upwards without stopping. I am an Uchiha. I will never be beaten by a... He cut himself off from his thoughts when the Uzumaki he despised reappeared in front of him, a swirling ball of chakra in his right hand. 3. Spiraling Sphere, Rasengan. He screamed, sending the spinning sphere of chakra straight into Sasuke's chest, sending the Uchiha flying across the waterfall, destroying a significant portion of Madara's statue as he crashed, seemingly defeated. Naruto quickly flew to the top of Hashirama's head, where he immediately fell to his knees as the yellow light coating his body vanished into the air, sensing that his meteor was about to wear off. More blood oozed from the corners of his eyes, and he was breathing heavily as a result of the amount of chakra he had expended. That should be enough to keep him down, he thought to himself. He did, however, appear to be far too confident in his own abilities. I'm not so sure about that, Kit. What exactly do you mean? His gaze then shifted to the location where Sasuke had just collided, and his jaw dropped open as black lightning began to erupt from beneath the rocks. No. Why now, damn it? I've used up all of my chakra. Naruto struggled to his feet as the black lightning that was roaring all throughout the area blew away all the rocks and stones that had apparently buried Sasuke beneath, and the blonde boy had to plant his feet firmly on the statue to stay where he was. Why can't he just go away? I'm not sure if I even have any chakra left. He exclaimed, frustrated with himself for failing to complete the task. Boom. The rocks were completely blown away, and underneath them all, Sasuke climbed out, and Naruto's eyes widened when he saw the difference in his friend's appearance. The Uchiha's skin turned gray, his hair grew longer and brown, bat-like wings sprouted from his back. A black shuriken-like marking appeared between his eyes and nose, and his Mangekyo Sharingan flared wildly with rage. His teeth were baring in a killer expression, causing Naruto to take a few steps back and almost trip due to him losing his balance. You didn't think this was the end, did you, Naruto? Asked Sasuke, evilly smiling at his foe and lightning flashing around him as if he were the conductor. That last technique you used. It hurts a lot, but I think I can make the cut, he mocked, causing the Uzumaki to harden his gaze at him, forgetting about his original mission in favor of simply shutting up Sasuke's big mouth. The real question is, Dobi, can you still keep up with me? In frustration, he clenched his teeth. Damn, everything I do is pointless. I'm not sure I have much strength left. I squandered too much time flying the entire mission. Fuck it, I'm such a moron. He looked down, his eyes welling up with tears. I lost. I can't take him down. It's pointless. He still has more chakra than me, and my eyes won't last much longer either. You know, Kit, you can still make a difference. You stupid fox, just shut up. Are you content now? You're right, I should have given up while I still had the chance. This is the end for me. He thought to himself, losing hope that he could finish this and win. Your friend will be upset when she discovers that you gave up on something she hoped you'd be able to finish no matter what. Do you want her to feel bad for the rest of her life because you died because you gave up? That's not the Naruto she knew up to this point, because she saw you as someone who never gave in no matter what the world threw at you. Am I mistaken? The Biju's words appeared to have taken over the boy's mind, with a picture of Hinata smiling appearing inside his mind. Hina-chan. He thought to himself, moved after realizing what Kurama was trying to say. Look, I checked your reserves. It turns out you still have enough chakra for one more jutsu. You must make the correct decision for this one, because if you use it incorrectly, it is game over for you. You will most likely collapse or even fall unconscious after using the chakra, so choose your technique carefully. But how about Sasuke? He inquired, his eyebrow raised in perplexity. How am I going to beat him with just one jutsu? This transformation, in my opinion, must be the result of the seal that Orochimaru branded him with. I can tell his abilities have greatly improved, but it's best not to find out. In other words, if you want to do any damage to that Uchiha, you'll have to remove the seal. This new appearance must be drawing power from the seal, and if you let him hit you, I'm not sure I'll be able to heal you. I have to target the seal. The seal. He told himself as he closed his eyes. Despite having the direct advantage over Naruto, he continued to repeat the same words in his head as Sasuke prepared for what appeared to be his final attack. As electric sparks of the same color flared up around Uchiha's body, a black version of Sasuke's Chidori appeared on his left hand. I will break my bond with you, Naruto. With this last attack, he yelled as he leapt across the great waterfall to the other side, where Naruto was. I will forgive my clan and restore the honor we never lost. With each passing second, Sasuke drew closer to his greatest foe, ready to end his life. Finally, this fight was coming to an end. Naruto had no chakra left, and even if he could, it wouldn't be enough against a crazed, demonic-looking Sasuke. Sasuke was ready to spill blood today, even if it was his longtime best friend's blood. Naruto, on the other hand, had other plans for today. Naruto opened his eyes and rolled forward just as Sasuke appeared in front of him, ready to attack. Before Sasuke could even turn around, he felt something wrap around his neck and tighten its grip, rendering him immobile. The Uchiha growled and gritted his teeth. The Dobi could apparently still move and had some magic tricks up his sleeve. He should have known better. Even if he had no chance of winning, Naruto was not the type of person to give up. I'm sorry, Sasuke. But you've left me with no choice but to do this. He then closed his eyes and focused his chakra on his right arm, which was clutching Sasuke's neck. Jiryoku Fuin. Gravity seal. Screamed the blonde, causing Sasuke to gasp in surprise at the mention of a seal. Activate. He exclaimed as he blinked his eyes open. Sasuke screamed in pain almost immediately as he felt his chakra being drained as it flowed through his rival's arm. Naruto kept his gaze on his friend's arms as he resisted the evil chakra that was slowly flowing through his arm. His plan was to take all of Orochimaru's chakra inside Sasuke's body and seal it into his eyes so that Sasuke could finally return to normal, but that wouldn't be easy. Especially since the last of the dark chakra suddenly spoke before being sucked into Uzumaki's body. You idiotic brat. In that forest, I should have killed you. I'll kill you for it. Naruto didn't notice the voice because he was so focused on ridding Sasuke of Orochimaru's power, which had now been compressed into a single cloud of chakra on his right hand, which was holding together due to the gravity he was manipulating. When most of his power was drained from him, the raven-haired Uchiha panted, but he didn't notice that a spider-like mechanism jumped off his neck. The mechanism crawled away from the two Chunins, who were too preoccupied to notice its presence, before self-destructing in such a small explosion that only a tiny camera remained in the aftermath. Transfer. Yelled the Uzumaki, causing all the chakra that had been compressed on his hand to flow to his eyes and absorb every last bit of it. Naruto screamed in agony as he felt Orochimaru's chakra within his own body, but he kept his grip on Sasuke's neck to keep their bond from fraying. After about a minute of fighting the unbearable pain, Naruto finally let go of Sasuke's neck and dropped to the ground, supported only by one knee. Sasuke also landed on the ground, but this time he was on all fours, panting in exhaustion. What on earth is going on? What occurred? Slowly, events from his previous days in Konoha began to flood his mind, reminding him of what had happened before he lost himself. Wait, I was on my way to follow the Dobi and watch him train with his sword, which he got from some mysterious guy. Oh, shit. Did I overlook it? I need to know if he tried to stand up on his feet, only to collapse on his buttocks, feeling too weak to move. Shit. Why am I feeling so weak that I can't even move? Sasuke clenched his teeth and clutched the back of his neck, as if he were being attacked by a swarm of ninjas all at once. He turned his head to the side after hearing water flowing nearby and saw a waterfall, which caused him to frown in confusion. Where am I? He wondered. This isn't the village. And there aren't any buildings around here. Damn it, where did I last see the Dobi's girlfriend? She was en route to A. When he heard someone groan in front of him, Sasuke came to a halt in his thoughts. When he turned his head again, he saw Naruto standing in front of him, blood streaming from his eyes. And Naruto? He exclaimed out loud, astounded by his rival's current appearance. His clothes were slightly ripped, and his mesh shirt could be seen underneath both his vest and shirt. His face was bruised, and he appeared to have just returned home from a riot in which his life was at stake. He was almost falling over, and the only reason he could stand was because Stardust had been stabbed on the ground and he was using it to support himself. What the hell happened to you, and where are we? What happened to the village? The blonde boy laughed instead of responding. Laughed like a small child with his mother. Finally. Despite the toll that the previous fight had taken on him, Naruto smiled as he exhaled. I knew you were inside somewhere, Teme. What the hell was wrong with you? It's not a funny joke, Sasuke, nearly killing me like that. He attempted to be angry, but failed miserably. Dobi, start making sense or I'll squeeze it out of you myself. He raged. What in the world are you on about? I almost killed you? For fuck's sake, I was following you with your girlfriend. Don't make assumptions and try to tell me the truth. Is this some sort of mission that Kakashi-sensei did not inform us of? And what exactly happened to you? For some reason, you appear bruised. Naruto laughed once more, a solitary tear falling from his eye as he smiled. Oh, that wasn't you. Thank goodness. After what happened, I thought I'd have to beg Ba-chan to let you back into the village. Sasuke only looked at his friend with wide eyes as he coughed violently, sending him one last smile. Sakura-chan. Will be so happy. When you return. Everyone else as well. He muttered weakly as he stumbled forward, eventually losing consciousness. I've got you covered, Dobi. Uchiha exclaimed, diving forward to catch his friend on his arms before taking a few deep breaths to regain his composure. Hey. Wake up, he said, shaking his friend's body in an attempt to wake him up, but it didn't work. Fearing that Naruto's life was in danger, he began slapping his face in an attempt to wake him up. Come on, come on. Don't leave me hanging, Dobi. Wake up. Naruto. As the moon rose in the sky, reinforcements from the Leaf Village were on their way to be a ray of hope for the recovery team. In the meantime, in the land of whirlpools. So it's finally over, Hero Uzumaki said, darkly chuckling as he performed a specific hand sign. Kai. Kenzo, who was eating grilled fish by the campfire with Fuko, turned his head to look at his comrade. Why? What occurred? He inquired. Hiro walked over to the campfire and sat down with them to eat. My control over Sasuke Uchiha appears to have ended. When the Uzumaki boy used an unknown fuinjutsu to put an end to Orochimaru's schemes for the time being, I had the spider on his neck self-destruct. Actually, I'm impressed. I'd never seen a seal like what he showed, but I didn't notice because I needed to direct the spider away from the boys to avoid being noticed. So he accomplished his goal, then. Kenzo nodded and threw another fish for Satsuki to eat while sinking his fangs into another. Precisely. We are now waiting for the eclipse. It is due in 3 weeks, and we must be ready to fight any other village or individual who becomes suspicious of the gate. The Leaf Village, and only the Leaf Village, must arrive for the plan to work flawlessly. He raised his glasses to look at the blonde woman across the fire. Fuko, I'd like you to send a message to His Highness and update him on our progress here so far. It is critical that he is aware of what is going on here before the eclipse begins. Fuko gave a nod. Understood, she said again as she stood up and prepared to leave. But, given the recent turn of events, are you certain Konoha will not be suspicious? They could discover information about the Eclipse portal plan at any time, which would jeopardize our strategy. I wouldn't call them suspicious. They seem more confused than ever. Hiro smirked as he crossed his arms. They're probably oblivious to what's going on around them because everything was so peaceful while I was at the village. We will take advantage of this, ensuring our victory over them. Kenzo smiled. Hey. That sounds like a good plan to me. I think we'll call it a night after dinner, he said, his glasses reflecting the light off his eyes. Now that we've diverted the Leaf Village's attention for a while, the gate will begin releasing varying amounts of energy over the next few days. And while that is happening, we must defend this land from anyone who enters it. It was dreadful. There were bodies as far as the eye could see. What am I doing? Naruto Uzumaki took a stroll around the area, and as far as he knew, this was the Hidden Leaf Village. Or, at the very least, it was known by that name previously. Now? It's hard to call it a village any longer. He kept walking around, hoping to see someone he could ask for answers, but all he saw was a bloody red sky, shattered buildings, massive fires that engulfed them, and the bodies of Konoha civilians and ninjas alike that had been chopped up, burned, or even electrified. He looked at himself, afraid that he had died like them, before noticing that he was still alive and unharmed. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The sound of flapping wings zooming through the air drew Naruto's attention. Hundreds of winged dragons filled the sky, roaring loudly as they flew across the vast terrain. What exactly is going on here? I need to find out what's going on. I know. Mika will be contacted. He slammed his palm on the ground after completing all of the required seals. Kuchios no jutsu. Says one. He waited a few seconds, but Mika was nowhere to be found. Damn it. Is there anyone there? I've got to figure out what happened here. He had no choice but to scream for help because he couldn't even summon his phoenix at the moment. Let me try flying up for a better view. He thought to himself before activating his Uchtengan, which didn't work at all, rendering his efforts futile. He noticed a black figure in the distance, not far from where he was, as if on cue. That figure appeared to be heading towards a part of the village Naruto was familiar with, the Hokage Tower. Hey, you. Are you from this area? What became of the village? He attempted to inquire, but the mysterious figure did not appear to hear him and continued walking away. What the hell is going on in this place? Is this some kind of genjutsu? He was ranting to himself. That question led him to another scene, where he noticed the mysterious figure from earlier walking towards a group of people who were barely moving on the ground, implying that they were half dead. He rushed over to where the mystery man was going, his eyes widening at what he just saw in front of him, letting his curiosity get the best of him. Ino. Shikamaru. Haku. Choji. Neji. Kiba. Lee. Tenten. Shino. They were all clinging to life, barely alive as a result of their injuries. When he noticed that some of his friends had lost multiple limbs and Shikamaru was missing an eye, he had to cover his mouth to keep from vomiting. He was suppressing every part of himself that wanted to go help them, but it felt like something was holding him back, preventing him from moving. It wasn't until the man approached someone he recognized that Naruto finally reacted inappropriately. Naruto was filled with rage the moment he saw the mysterious figure approach Hinata Hyuga's half-dead state. Hinata? He exclaimed, and it appeared that his words had attracted the attention of the man he had been following since earlier. The man cast a brief glance at Naruto, and the blonde Uzumaki swears he saw red eyes beneath the figure's hood. Sasuke? He inquired, saying the first thing that came to mind when he considered people with red eyes. What's going on here, Teme? What became of the village? Instead of responding, the man charged towards Hinata, grabbed her by the throat, lifted her up, and slowly choked the poor girl to death. No. Put her down, Sasuke. Naruto rushed in to save Hinata and possibly the others, but before he could even reach the one he mistook for Sasuke, chakra chains burst out of the ground and bound his feet together, preventing him from moving any further. He was then forced to watch as Sasuke crushed Hinata's neck under his grasp, instantly killing her. No. He exclaimed, his eyes wide open after witnessing his best friend murder his own girlfriend right in front of his eyes. Sasuke. I'll kill you for what you did to Hinata. He yelled, losing any semblance of sanity as he desired nothing more than to have Sasuke dead at his feet. Sasuke tossed Hinata's body to the ground and approached Naruto. The man was dressed in a black cloak and hood that concealed his identity. Amaterasu! Screamed the man, and black flames erupted all around him, burning Hinata's body to a crisp as well as the other Konoha ninja who were barely breathing. The black flames grew larger and larger as they got closer to his body. Naruto couldn't move and just accepted his fate there and then. Sasuke, you're going to die for that. I'll make sure you're begging me to kill you as soon as I get out of here. Despite the fact that he was on the verge of death. The scene around him shifted again, as if on cue, and he could no longer feel the chakra chains around his feet. The black flames have vanished, as have Sasuke, Hinata and his friends, the village, and the dragons that inhabited the sky. For a few moments, everything went white before he found himself in another scenario. He was kneeling on the ground this time, clutching the body of a cloaked individual who was sobbing uncontrollably and hugging his body as if she didn't want to let go. He looked around and quickly assessed his surroundings. Sakura, Lee, Shikamaru, Choji, and Hinata were all staring at him and the figure in his arms, all with puzzled expressions on their faces. Now was the time for something more important. He looked down at the person he was holding, and almost simultaneously, she looked up, revealing her face. He had the same look of disbelief on his face as he was at a loss for words. It can't be. Hina-chan? No, how can it be you standing over there? Hinata managed to smile through her tears and affectionately caress his cheek. Please. Safeguard the villages and the world's future. Naruto-kun. Her arms sagged beside her as she closed her eyes and stopped breathing, basking in eternal sleep. Naruto couldn't stop the tears from falling from his eyes as he desperately tried to shake her awake and tell her that it was all a bad joke. Hinata? I mean, it's only a joke, right? I'll forgive you if you don't mean it. Hinata, please. Please tell me this is a joke. He exclaimed enthusiastically before feeling himself being pulled away from the lifeless Hyuga's body. Hina-chan? Hina-chan? Please, Hina-chan. Isn't it just a bad joke? Nonetheless, she remained motionless. Hinata. Naruto awoke with a start, as he had always done when he was in the hospital. He didn't know why, but he was getting so used to waking up on a hospital bed that he didn't need to wonder where he was, and he could just recall what had happened to bring him here. I'm in the hospital. Am I back in Konoha or something? He wondered before looking out the window for confirmation. A simple glance at the Hokage monument provided him with his answer before anyone else. Okay, I'm in the village. What was going on before I passed out again? Myself and a few of my shinobi friends were supposed to. The realization slammed into him like a ton of bricks. Sasuke. Oh, fuck. Now I remember. What the hell happened to that Teme? Did he flee once more? I don't think so. I recall him being visibly perplexed the last time I saw him. But if that damn bastard ever runs away from me again, I swear I'm not going to let him rest until I find him. Before getting slapped on the cheek, he exclaimed loudly. Keep it down, Naruto-kun, or your voice will wake up the entire hospital. A threatening voice said, causing him to turn his head slightly to face the menacing source. Hinata Hyuga stood at the edge of his bed, dressed as usual, but instead of looking embarrassed and flushed, she had a serious expression on her face. A frightening aura could be felt flaring around her, indicating that she was dissatisfied with something. Is that you, Hina-chan? He inquired, unsure whether he was still dreaming or not. He had just seen the girl die in his dream, which could be considered a nightmare, and he was still a little triggered by it. Speaking of which, the dream he had before waking up was worth investigating. He remembered every detail. The skies, the dragons flying above, the destroyed village, a mysterious man who resembled Sasuke, and, surprisingly, Hinata. He remembered the girl's exact words to him, but he had no idea what she meant by them. That was a story for another time, though, because he was going to get it. Naruto-kun, you made me so worried about you. Didn't I warn you to be cautious out there? She said it in a sweet but menacing tone that made the blonde shiver. Holy sh*t. I never thought she could be this terrifying. He thought to himself as he braced himself for the worst. Fortunately, he was not the only one experiencing difficulties at the time. Sasuke rolled in bed for the third time today to try out a new sleeping position. He'd regained consciousness the day before, but he didn't tell anyone because the last thing he needed right now was someone checking in on him every few hours to see if he was okay. He needed rest right now, as well as a good memory if he wanted to remember what had happened before waking up in this place. Once again, let me see if I can recall. I recall sitting in a valley, and Naruto suddenly went unconscious. He leaned back in his bed, his arms behind his head. Then, I carried him all the way back while looking for help. But I believe I passed out as well. I was feeling lethargic at the time. But why? And what did it all mean when the dope said I wasn't myself? What am I thinking? I'll ask him when I get out of here. But, in the meantime, he was interrupted in his thoughts when the door to his room opened and a familiar face entered. Sorry for the delay, Sasuke-kun. I had a difficult time convincing my mother that Sakura couldn't stop herself from screaming in surprise when she opened her eyes and saw who was right in front of her. Sasuke-kun. Are you awake? When he saw his pink-haired teammate walk into the room, Uchiha almost fell off the bed in surprise. Sakura. He muttered quietly, taking in the fact that nothing bad happened to her while he was out of himself. He'd never admit it in front of others, but he cared for her, and it was only recently that he began to see her as more than a friend. Unfortunately, he would not be able to get the sleep he had been craving since earlier. What happened around here, Sakura? What happened after I spoke with you that night? He inquired. I have no idea what it is, and I can't fucking remember what it is. Could you please tell me? Smack. Ow. Sasuke screamed in agony, clutching the top of his head as it began to steam. He looked at Sakura, who was clenching her fist tightly and had a tick mark on her head. What the hell was that for? He exclaimed, not in the mood for fun and games. Smack. Ugh, I don't have time for this. Cut it out. He said this while holding his pillow up to block her punches if she tried to hit him again. Whack. Pow. Bam! The pillow was almost ripped apart, but Sasuke managed to keep it in his grasp. He attempted to inspect it firsthand to see if there were any signs of damage, but this only put him in a more vulnerable position. Wham! As a tick mark appeared on his head, a large red handprint appeared on his face. Would you please give me a break right now? I have to inform you of something important. No, she simply stated with narrowed eyes, speaking for the first time since entering the room before cocking her arm back, ready to punch Sasuke in the face once more. Sasuke groaned loudly and grabbed both of her arms in his hands, holding them together. The pinkette tried to break free a few times before eventually calming down after half a minute, even though she was still enraged. Sasuke took advantage of the fact that she had finally calmed down, if only for a brief moment, to explain things and possibly regain her trust. Even he could see that Sakura didn't completely trust him right now. Please accept my apologies. I had no idea what had happened to me that evening. Her brow furrowed. Sorry? Are you sorry? You leave the village, nearly killing everyone on the recovery team trying to save you, and all you have to say is, I'm sorry? Why did I expect anything more from you? She moaned. Although he was surprised that she didn't say anything about what happened between the two of them, it didn't cause him to lose focus. Sakura, you don't get it. Please allow me to explain. TCH, don't worry, I completely understand what you're saying. What's wrong is that you're mentally ill. Is there a screw missing or something? You can't even decide what you truly desire. You can be cool 1 minute and then go insane the next. But do you know what's truly bizarre about it? You're just an angry little brat who's so stuck in the past that he can't see everyone willing to help him move forward, even if it's right in front of his face. I've been waiting to say these words to you. Hey, you're such a jerk. Sasuke grabbed her shoulders and looked her in the eyes before she could finish her sentence. Sakura, I won't say everything you said is false. But bear with me on this. That day, I had no control over my actions. I had no idea where I was. Despite her inner voice telling her to hear Sasuke out and listen to his words, she rolled her eyes and pushed him away. Oh no, another excuse. What? Do you now have two personalities? I'm not surprised at all. Please, Sakura, just listen to me. I can't explain things if you keep interrupting me. I'm not required to listen to shish. I was under a damn mind control, okay? He screamed, reaching a breaking point in his conscience in order for the pinkette to hear him out. He tried to remain calm so that he could tell his story smoothly and without flaws, but Sakura forced him to. I'm not concerned with, her attention had been earned. She gave a confused look for a split second before looking at Sasuke. Wait, what? She wondered, her curiosity taking over. Sasuke internally rejoiced that he had persuaded Sakura to listen to him. Someone, I'm not sure who, was in charge of me. The entire time, I had no idea what I was doing. He made me attack you and flee with Orochimaru's goons, whoever he was. I remember talking with you about leaving one moment, and the next thing I knew, the Dobi was a mess in front of me and had passed out. She gave the Uchiha a scowl. You're telling the truth. How did you know you were attacking me if you didn't know what you were doing? She inquired. You had no idea, but I've been awake since yesterday. When someone came to visit me, I just didn't say anything and pretended to be asleep. They have told me what happened when I left the village, he explained, and her eyes widened slightly. And what makes you think I'm telling the truth? When was the last time I lied to you, Sakura? Please share an example of when I did this. I'd love to hear it. He said sarcastically before returning to his original tone. Even when the truth was too painful for people to hear, I've always been honest with you and others, especially after what happened during the Chunin exams. You must believe me. Sasuke-kun, I'm not sure what I believe in anymore. I want to hear you out, okay? But, I'm not sure I could trust you again. she admitted as she looked down at the ground. He clenched his teeth. He was losing her trust with his own words, and he couldn't even provide proof. Damn it. That is something I would never do. I would never hurt you. But you did it anyway. And it almost led to your demise at the hands of Orochimaru. It wasn't me. At the very least. I didn't do it willingly. Even though I was irritated by you at the time, I never touched you or any other girl, despite what my ridiculous ego claims. Sakura maintained her gaze on the ground. I'm not sure who you are anymore, Sasuke-kun, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. I thought I was in love with you, but... Before she could say anything else, she realized she was about to go too far and clamped her hand over her mouth to keep it shut. I mean... She tried to say to save herself. It's too late. Sasuke was already looking up at the pinkette with a surprised expression on his face, taken aback by her unexpected choice of words. But was it for real? Did she feel the same way he does, or was it just her annoying attraction to his good looks and coolness? Are you trying to be a squealing banshee again? He asked rhetorically, drawing a scoff from the pink-haired kunoichi. Sakura clenched her fists, but she managed to relax. If you say that to me again, I'll punch you in the face. A smirk formed on the Uchiha's lips as he turned his head to the side. Hey. You have truly evolved. This only proves that I was too consumed by vengeance to see the truth behind people. Did you change your attitude because I told you were annoying in the exams? Huh? She asked at first, before realizing what he was trying to ask her. Well, I believe a portion of it. Hearing you say that insult set off a chain reaction in my mind. It made me reflect on my actions toward you and other people, such as Naruto-kun. You and Naruto-kun hitting me in the face that day was like the final trigger, and that's probably all. Changing my own personality helped me a lot when we were up against that sound group in the forest. Even in the third round of exams while I was training with Haku-sensei. He smiled, but did not show it. Sakura, he said softly. Sakura turned her head towards him but said nothing. Remember when I told you last night that I was about to leave the village? They are correct. I meant everything I said. Her pupils dilated. I want you to know that I never intended to hurt you or anything that day, but I appreciate you being honest with me. When those 4 sound douchebags told me their deal, you, the Dobi, and Kakashi-sensei gave me more than enough reasons to stay in the village. She looked at him with concern in her eyes. Sasuke-kun. Was all she could say in response because she was frozen in place. I'll repeat it if you want me to. I was mistaken back then. I should never have embarrassed you in front of everyone, but from what I've seen, it appears to have only helped you grow into a better ninja. I compared you to my mother when she was still alive after seeing how you acted beneath your annoying fangirl attitude. You both have a good heart, but you can be serious as hell at times, he chuckled. If you want me to admit something embarrassing, when I was a kid, she used to cling to me all the time, kind of like you. The pinkette's heart was fluttering every time he mentioned her, and she was trying hard not to act like a fangirl and scream what she was feeling out loud. She didn't want to jeopardize her reputation or her new image in the eyes of others. That's why. If you so desire, I'll give it a shot and try to work things out with you. I'm not doing this just because you're like my mother and I want to rebuild my clan. Since the Chunin exams, I've grown to appreciate your company. I wish I knew you better than I do now, Sakura. Sakura remained silent and stared at him blankly, despite a tinge of pink staining her cheeks. The Uchiha looked at her and noticed the expression on her face, which led him to believe she was having difficulty making a decision. Hey, you don't have to respond right now if you don't want to. I simply wanted to. Yes. What? He inquired after hearing something come from her mouth. Sakura blushed slightly as she smiled slightly and looked to the side. For some reason, she wasn't as embarrassed as she expected. I'll accompany you on your date. After all, the same pink-haired fangirl is still here. All I'm doing is keeping her at bay in order to save my reputation. Really? She gave a nod. To be honest, I was really hurt when you said I was annoying, but it felt like you woke me up from a stupid dream. Sasuke cocked his brow. This was something he needed to learn more about. What exactly do you mean? The girl shook her head and chuckled slightly. I really liked you, but I was just being a fangirl for the sake of it. I wanted to keep my feelings to myself. When you insulted me in front of everyone that day, it made me see you as a fellow ninja rather than the person I most admire. Who wouldn't be drawn to you when you look like that? Only Hinata, because she has Naruto, or Gaara's sister, who doesn't give a fuck. So, even if we're not at the ideal age, I wouldn't mind dating. Well, that takes care of that, he said, amused by her explanation, with a small smile. But should we tell Sensei and the Dobi? She crossed her arms and shook her head furiously. Certainly not. If Naruto keeps teasing me about you, I die of embarrassment. Let's just keep it to ourselves for the time being, okay? When the time comes, we'll tell them about us. Sasuke grinned. Whatever you want to say. I don't want to get punched again. He finished, smiling out the window. A few seconds later, he noticed Sakura approaching the window, and they both smiled as they watched what was going on outside the hospital. For a few more moments, everything was silent until someone made his presence known. Burp. The two teammates wasted no time in turning their heads to see who the hell burped inside the hospital room. Their jaws dropped when they saw Kakashi Hatake standing outside the door, holding an empty bottle of soda and smiling. He began rubbing the back of his neck as he realized he had been apprehended. Oh. Hee hee. How are you two? Sasuke, how are you? Well, it appears that you two are preoccupied, so I'll just. He took off, running down the corridors to avoid the impending destruction, before he could think of anything else to say as an explanation. Sensei. Sakura and Sasuke screamed from within the room, which could be heard throughout the hospital. After 5 days. Sasuke's injuries turned out to be neither fatal nor severe, and he was discharged much sooner than Naruto. As soon as that happened, he began to visit his blonde teammate Sakura whenever he had the opportunity to do one of two things. Apologize for whatever happened while he was out of control, or inquire about what occurred while they were fighting. Naruto, being the knucklehead that he is, could only remember snippets of their battle, including him tapping into the Kyuubi's power, Sasuke temporarily using a new form of his Sharingan, and the fact that his curse mark had vanished. He also kept muttering that he wanted a rematch with Sasuke because there was no clear winner between them, which the Uchiha dismissed. Of course, Naruto accepted Sasuke's apology because he knew Sasuke had no intention of leaving the village of his own free will. When Sakura realized the curse mark was no longer there, she burst out laughing and hugged Sasuke tightly, inadvertently revealing to Naruto that they were having an affair. It prompted Naruto to begin teasing them about their cute new relationship, forcing Sakura to knock him out cold. He also went inside the hospital to see the other members of the recovery team and did the same thing, apologizing to everyone and explaining that he had no idea what was going on when he left the village. It was difficult to regain Kiba and Neji's trust, but in the end, they all understood his reasons and forgave him. It piqued Sasuke's interest as to how he was able to use the Mangekyo Sharingan. According to his mother, it only awakens when a close friend or family member of the Sharingan user dies, and the abilities that it grants the user are extraordinary. Naruto knew it was the Mangekyo from the moment he said he had new eyes. He had no idea how he had acquired such eyes because no one had ever told him, but he trusted Naruto's words. After all, how could one defeat Naruto in his current state without his own tricks? Shouldn't Naruto be able to easily defeat him with his Uchtengan? Especially without the cursed seal? There had to be a reason why Naruto demanded a rematch from him, right? He reasoned that if he could do it again, he could learn how to use it properly and efficiently, and possibly kill Itachi with it. but he had to put his curiosity on hold for the time being. Hokage Tower. Council Chamber. Sasuke Uchiha, you were being charged for assaulting Sakura Haruno, a fellow villager and shinobi, and leaving the village without the knowledge and permission of the Hokage, with intent to desert, endangering the lives of several Konoha shinobi, and attempting to kill one of them. Tsunade's voice rang out across the room, seriousness beneath it. How do you plead? Kaharu asked, suspiciously looking at Uchiha. Sasuke, who was sitting alone in the room, looked around at everyone. The clan heads, the civilian council, the advisors, and the Hokage herself. Every single one of them gave him suspicious looks and glares, giving the impression that he had no one on his side. It was ironic, because he was supposed to be one of the more respected people in Konoha because of his village status. Now it would appear that the world was against him, and he had nowhere to turn. Until his gaze was drawn to his fellow ninjas just outside the door. The entire recovery team, including Lee, was just released from the hospital, and they were invited to Sasuke's trial today to testify because they were the ones who suffered the most during the rescue mission. Sakura was also there, because the whole thing started when he was with her that evening. Just when he thought he had no one on his side, one by one, all of his friends gave him reassuring looks that showed their support for him. Each of them grinned, gave a thumbs up, smiled, or simply nodded. Naruto, in particular, did not do any of these things. Instead, he tapped his chest with a closed fist, implying that his friend should follow his heart. It caused the dark feeling inside Sasuke's heart to wane and eventually subside, allowing him to maintain his calm for the time being. Sasuke took a deep breath and turned to face the Hokage, looking her in the eyes. I'm not guilty.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.